is the finished quilt. I've named it Cindy's Butterflies. It's always nice to take pictures.
I've been making things since I was 3. Creating is my happy place and my passion. My hope is that you feel inspired as a result of watching my videos and create something incredible. I would love to hear about it by leaving me a comment below and give the thumbs up for other interested viewers. If this is your first time here, I would love for you to subscribe because this channel is all about creativity and inspiration. I hope you feel inspired to create something amazing. Feel free to share the inspiration because life is a journey we make together. And now I'll show you how this creative project was done.
Today we're going to be talking about how to put applique pieces that you've been working on together in a quilt. At this point I'm getting enough pieces together to think about a quilt. Went to the internet for some inspiration and found this piece here that I really liked. It was similar in design to what I had in mind. So you have to measure your center piece or your biggest piece. This is 20 inches by 19 and a half. So my 2 side pieces are going to have to match. So all I've done is just added fabric, and you can see that they'll fit nicely. So now I can start working on the sashing. I'm really happy I'm using this fabric. I really do love it. I think it is just beautiful. I love batiks. So I'm going to cut my sashing 3 inches. So what I've done now is I've put my fabric one right on to the other in 90 degrees, and I leave probably more than 1/4 inch out on each side. You can pin it here if you'd like, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line right from each corner and sew exactly on that line. Just sew right on that line. Press my sashing just the way I sewed it. I'm going to open it up, okay, in the direction that I want it to go, and I'm just going to lay it exactly where I want it. Excess. I want 1/4 of an inch more. In fact, I just usually go from point to point. Take it back over to the ironing board. I like to press my seams open. I'm going to put them together in rows. So my sashing is only on the sides of each piece, and then we can sew the rows together. The first thing I'm going to do is pin and sew my sashing on each side. So as you can see, I've got the rows done. Put the sashing in between each of the pieces. Now what we have to do is sew the middle to the top and the bottom to the middle piece, and that will become our quilt top. Figuring out how much backing you need to add up all of your individual pieces. That is your finished length of each one. In this case it's 67 and a half. So 2 yards of fabric is 72 inches. So that will give me 4.5 inches on each side to play. That's fine. So you have to double that because it's only half of that. So 4 yards will do ya. I've taken my fabric, folded it, open ends are together on each side. And a pin. So all the way down each side. So you can see how important it is to iron your selvage and make sure that it's straight. So I'm going to put my scissors in here and cut the bottom and open it up. So just don't sew all the way down, it's fine. Now I've got both of my sides sewn up. And what I'm going to do here is open it up. When you open it up, you're now going to put seam to seam. Go ahead and shake it open, and we're going to cut it again, one of these sides, and open it up. And what I think I'll do is make a little mini version to show you what I've got going here. Example, so that you can kind of see what we're doing here. So I've cut the bottom. Okay. These are just scraps. What I'm doing here is putting my seam to seam on my big piece. That's where we are now. When I get it all flat, I'm gonna make sure on this end my seam to seam as well. Okay, you don't really have to press it, but just make sure you're in the ballpark. Then I'm going to cut on one of the sides, doesn't matter, all the way down. And when you open it up, but this will be your back. Your seams will be on two sides versus if this was my backing, you would have the seam just right down the middle. And it's really a matter of preference. I kind of like this better. It's easier when I'm sandwiching it and putting it together, putting the batting in the middle, putting the top on. You can measure the sides from the ends. I think it's a little easier than trying to put the seam exactly in the center, but it's completely up to you. But putting your backing down is very helpful if you tape it to a table so it doesn't move.
I like this warm and natural 100% cotton batting.
So the quilt top has been placed on top of the batting. My backing. Start in the middle and pin about every 6 inches. So today we are going to be talking about how to tie together the back of your quilt, the batting, and the top. And there's a couple different ways. One way is tying it, and one way is quilting it. You could quilt echo around the butterflies, for example. That takes quite a bit of time. And on this particular quilt, I'm ready to kind of wrap it up, and so I'm doing the tie method. And so you kind of want to do it every 6 to 8 inches. So in this case, I have tied each of the corners, tied in each of the intersections. Take a piece of floss. I like coordinating color in my floss. And I deal with about 18 inches or an arm's length. Start in the middle of your quilt and work outwards. At this point you have it all pinned. So I'm going to just bring it down. Okay, leave a tail to tie. And I like to kind of look at where I'm placing it, right next to it. Come up, you have a little wiggle room. And I'll be making a knot right here. This is how you make the binding after you have seamed it all together. This is 2.5 inches. You can also do it in 3, whatever size binding you like. Fold it over and press it all the way down. I don't pin it, I just hold it. I know exactly where it's to be. Come into the corner here, so to about 1/4 inch. Okay, we're going to take it out. I'm going to take my binding. You can finger press it. Lay your binding back on top. My thread on. I don't clip it at this point because I use it to guide it through in the back. Start with my needle down. I'm going to have to join the two pieces of binding that come together. All you really need to know is what your seam allowance. This is going to come over your piece. The whole point is you're going to mark it, adding your seam allowance, and you're going to cut it off. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this out because you're going to do your seam. So these together, and you want to have some room to do it. Open them up, face each other. Make sure it's straight. Back around, and we put it right back in. So now I get to take out all of my pins, and then we will turn this over, and then it's hand stitched. So I'm working on sewing the binding to the quilt. This is the last step. A couple of tricks that I have learned, putting lots of bindings on lots of quilts. A couple things. So the first is your thread. I think that that's very important. I definitely like the YLI threads. They come in a variety of colors. I use 100. That works the best for me, and I use this type of thread on all my appliqué. And the next thing is I've found is the setup is really important because this is a pretty long process, and I just use a TV tray. It helps for the weight of it, gets it off of my lap, and you can just easily kind of maneuver it where you want. I would highly suggest getting in a comfortable
Another
position. Trick that is very helpful are these clips. Very nice that you can just hold your binding in, move them as you need them as you go. Really helpful. Like that a lot. How I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take a small stitch from the backing to the binding and pull it up. Now you've noticed I have a thumb thimble. For me, this works the best on binding. I've tried a variety of thimbles, sizes, bought lots. This is a tailor's thimble, but it works great for this because I can push my needle through if I need to, pull it up, and it works great. I often take just kind of a running stitch. It's kind of like a little bit of a quilter's. I do an up and down motion. Sometimes I can actually feel it. The needle on the back, I back out just a little bit. I also use the thumb thimble to pull the needle out. And about every half inch or so, I will take a locking stitch. You cover your seam, which is easily seen. Through, pull it up, take a locking stitch, and that's all there is to it. All the way around. That's that. So Cindy's Batik butterfly quilt is done. I have to wrap it up in the mail. Don't forget the label. Happy quilting!